Okay, today we're going to be doing a little tricky fun thing with our Horizon Link Suite program. Let me give you a little backstory of what's going on here. I'm going to be using the pattern combo tool, and this is what it looks like over here on this part of the screen once it is opened up. Alright, it will always open up with this black screen, and it will start off with your applique stitches. If you want to find the other stitches that are the built-in stitches on your 15,000 sewing machine, they're up here in the upper left hand corner under the ordinary pattern tab. You're going to see here all the categories of the stitches, and this is your created stitches folder. This is a folder that I have created in my computer that I can also access through here with my own created stitches in it. Let me just give you a brief look at what that looks like. Alright, so what the purpose of this program is actually is, it's got a couple of purposes, I should say. One of them is that we can use it to combine some stitch patterns. They would populate over here in this little toolbar. Let me just click on a couple of them and just show you what I'm talking about. And then we could make adjustments to them over here on the right hand side of the screen, and then we could send these designs over to our sewing machine and we could stitch them out over there. So it's just kind of a fun little tool that probably not many people have used probably very much, but it's a fun thing to play with. The tool that I'm going to be using today, though, is going to be the File Manager. And let me give you a little backstory to why it is that I'm even going through this process. When I open it up, the File Manager, this little screen is going to open up, which is going to allow our computer to communicate with my sewing machine. So what happened is that I recently had to have some major work done on my 15,000 Quilt Maker Edition sewing machine, and it was going to wipe out the memory of my machine, of everything that I had saved in there, both in embroidery side of the machine as well as in the stitches section of my sewing machine. And as an avid user of my 15,000 machine, I had quite a few things in my stitch category that I had to take off of my machine and save them onto my computer before that work was done. And so today is the day when I've got my machine back, and I'm going to be sending all of these things that I saved on my computer back into my sewing machine. So let me show you where it is that it is saved at in my computer. In my computer, I'm going to double click on it, and most of my hard drive space is my document D drive. So I created a folder within my embroidery folder that I called my 15K machine, and I did this specifically for this process when my stuff was going to have to get taken off of the sewing machine. So I created some folders that are the same folders that are built into the sewing machine. We've got an EMB folder, which is our embroidery folder. This is the ORD folder that we can put some ordinary things into, meaning ordinary stitches. And the ORDF folder is a folder that was also in the hard drive of our machine, and basically it just means ordinary folder. Again, it's for those stitch files that are saved on our machine. So one of the things that I had to do in order to prepare to reverse this process is that over on my sewing machine, I had to come to my built-in section, and I had to create the folders over here on my machine that I was going to put stuff into. Now, once I click on my ORD folder, you're going to see that I've got the same folders here in my computer that I had created over here on my sewing machine. So I did have to make these machine folders first on my machine in order for this process to work properly. So let's just show you what happens here. In my fish folder, now this was a folder that I created when I was working on the 15,000 workbook class, and we did a little exercise where we created some fish out of decorative stitches. So when I open up that folder, these are the files that I had created. Now what I want to do with them is I'm going to send them over here into this folder. So right here we've got some check boxes, and I'm just going to put a little check mark in each one of the stitch files. You will notice that it's a little red check mark, and these are all ORD plus files. I'm going to come over here to my ORD folder on my machine. I'm going to open up my fish folder. Alright, right now here's my fish folder, and you can see that there's nothing in it. Now that everything has a red check mark, all I need to do is hit this little red arrow, and it is telling me that my machine needed to open up actually. Okay, I had to go over to my machine and I had to click on my fish folder to open it over there. So I'm going to say okay, and let's see if it transfers over. Okay, let's see. So I don't know if it's actually taking a little bit of time for that to happen. Let me just pause the video and we'll see what happens in a few seconds here. Okay, so I was able to get my files to go over into my fish folder. What had happened was that I had my machine set for it to try to open up a file. So basically this is the thing, is that when your machine needs to just be in the decorative stitch category, just needs to be open on the machine. And then this process will work seamlessly. Okay, so these ones are already ready, so I'm going to go back up a level. The next one I'm going to work on is I'm going to send my floating stitches over. So up here on the computer side, I'm going to go up a level. I'm going to open up the folder that has floating stitches in it. I'm going to put a check mark next to each one of those 4 designs, and I'm going to open up the folder on this side. And I'm going to hit the red arrow. Alright, so there are my stitches. I'm going to do the same thing for each one of these categories here. So I'm going to next open up, what's my next quote? Let's go ahead and do the, let's go for program class. I'm going to open that up. There's not too many in here that I have to be transferring, so just put your little check marks here next to each one of them. We're going to go to program class. These are stitch combinations of things that I have altered a little bit and that I have saved and that I use over and over again. So once again, program class with all of the files check marked, program class with nothing in it yet, hit the red arrow, and there they go. And it's as simple as that to get the things to go back and forth. Now if I wanted to try to do the reverse, basically if this was my design files here, let's just do this here. Let's put all of these, because they are safe over there on my machine, I'm just going to do this in reverse. So let's just say that you are like me and your machine is going to have to go through a service where some of the stuff might get wiped out of a memory. This is what you would be doing. You would have created your folders over here on your computer in order to prepare for this. So I'm going to delete my files. It's asking me if I want to be sure, and I'm going to say yes. So if this was my folder that I had created on my sewing machine, and these are all of my designs that are in there, I would just reverse this exact same process. I would have set up a folder on my computer prior to this process. I would click all of those design files. I would open up that folder as well as the folder that's open on my sewing machine, and I would just send them on over. Alright, so that's how we can send and receive files back and forth between our sewing machine and our computer. Now, one of the things that we also can do over here is we can do the same thing with our embroidery designs. So I'm going to just show you something, because I don't want you to get confused if this should ever happen to you. Let's just go up a couple of levels here. So when I'm in this File Manager section of this Pattern Combo tool, I also have an EMB folder, which normally is our embroidery folder, right? And in this embroidery folder, if I were to click on it, presumably you would think that I would have some embroidery designs saved in there, but nothing is showing up in any one of these folders. So let's just prove to you that they're all showing that they are empty right now. So this is what I would try to do if I had embroidery designs that were not showing up here. Alright, I would come back to my Horizon Link Suite opening screen. I would come to my embroidery link tool. And let's turn that one on for a second. Might take a little while. Okay, so here we are. Let's look at our File Manager here in Embroidery Link Tool. Again, I'm going to be looking in my computer on my PC. So I'm opening it up in my Document D drive. That's where I was at a little while ago as well. My embroidery folder, my 15K machine. And let's take a look and see if any of these things are showing up now. Yeah, they are. So okay, so it's the same place that I'm looking in my computer. It's still the EMB folder. of that folder in my computer. But the difference is that I had to open Embroidery Link Tool in order to access my embroidery designs. All right, so here's those same folders. So this may get you a little bit confused, but this is where they're going to be at. And I would just have had to set up my sewing machine, built-in folders. It might take a couple of seconds for this to open up. I do have my embroidery unit connected to my 15,000 machine, but I'm actually only in the sewing side of the machine, so I don't know if that's why it's taking a little bit of time here. Yeah, it wants to use the Wi-Fi settings here. So how about if I do this? Let's close this. Let's come up here under connection settings. Let's just say we want to use a USB. Okay, now let's go back to File Manager. Let's look at our sewing machine built-in folders. All right, and over here there are no folders created because, like I said a little while ago, this is a basically my embroidery side of my machine has not been set up with any folders within EMB. So let's just take a quick look at that folder that we're wanting to transfer, 15K machine, in my EMB folder. Let's just say I have some Candlewick stitches that I've used periodically here. So on my machine, I'm going to create a Candlewick folder here. Alright, so here's my new folder. I'm just simply going to right click on it and I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call this Candlewick. Be nice if I spelled it correctly. W-I-C-K. I think I still spelled it wrong. Okay, Candlewick, enter. Now I've got a Candlewick folder ready to go. Let's go ahead and open it up. Let's open up the Candlewick folder on this side and let's put a little check mark next to each one of my design files. And once I do this, then you've got the idea that this is how we're going to transfer all of the things from our embroidery link, using the embroidery link tool file manager over. Alright, so Candlewick is open here. Everything is selected. I'm going to use my red arrow. It'll take a couple of seconds for it to write those designs over into my Candlewick folder on my sewing machine. Hard drive memory. Here we go. So the embroidery link tool, as well as the pattern combo tool, can be really useful for lots of different things on our sewing machine. I think it's kind of an underused tool. But anyway, hopefully this little tutorial gave you some insight as to how to use it and some of the great things that it can be used for. Alright, this is Fabi Martinez. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you have fun with Horizon Link Suite. Bye for now.